What's up, Spice Warriors? It's Dunebro, and welcome to my beginner's guide for the Fremen in Dune Spice Wars. Now, this is my updated guide as of June 2024. A lot has changed for this faction over the last year, and the last major update changed a whole lot of things, so you are going to want to take some notes. Now, I'll be going through everything that's unique about them, including the unique developments, their unit roster, the counselors that I choose, and just some basic things: how you gather spice, how the faction plays, and most importantly, how to ride the Sandworm Shai-Hulud. Let's dig into it. So, the very first thing I'll talk about here is, how do you get your spice? Well, it's a little bit different for the Fremen. With other factions, you go to, your village that maybe your spice is in, and you would build a spice extractor. But that's not the case for the Fremen. For the Fremen, you actually create these harvesting teams, and you train them at your main base. So you can actually see here, they cost 600 Solari and 20 manpower. So I can technically undeploy this guy, and he moves around. And you can see he's actually stealth. And the cool thing about them is a unique civilization bonus is you can gather from any neutral or owned village. So that means, if there is a territory, right here that's got spice, it doesn't right now, you could walk over here and start gathering from it. Now, I can't gather from here because Krino controls it, but maybe this was neutral at the beginning, and you could start gathering until they were to take that land. So it opens up a lot of possibilities for a lot of spice teams. You see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 of them right now. So that's how you're going to gather your spice. They also do not get detected by the Sandworm, so you won't get eaten unlike the other factions. So if that annoys you, that's something you'll like about the Fremen. And one thing to note just about the neutral gathering is, if say you are gathering spice here, in this neutral land, and you're gathering, but then Ekaz comes and takes this land, it will not let you gather anymore. So in the short term, it's nice to go for the neutrals. If you want to secure that long term, you still will want to capture that territory. So that's how you gather spice, which is an important part of the game, of course. Let's talk about the counselors that I am using. Now, I'll talk about these two here. I have a counselor's guide on my YouTube channel where I go through every counselor in every faction and the ones I recommend choosing. So go check that out on my channel. But the ones I have selected today, and the one I pick most games and I'd recommend to you, is the Fremen Alliance, which is Stilgar, and the Water Master, which is Shamuum. Now, why these two? Well, let's look at what they do. So for Stilgar, it reveals all of the native sieges at the beginning of the game. Typically, you get to find those, explore them, right? You're going to see them right out of the gate. And allied sieges cost half as much authority to maintain. So a lot of the things the Fremen work around building these alliances with the sieges. Now, if you're wondering what the heck is a siege, it is these... What I kind of think they're similar to like barbarians from Civilization, maybe I remember, or whatever. But it's these little things, right? So you can trade with them. So here I'm trading 4 water. I get 14 plascrete in return. And this starts off at 0, and then over time you build up to 100. And you see right now I'm at 100 relation level. Now, we talked about trading water to get these. So at the beginning of the game, you'll see where all these sieges are, and you can immediately just start trade. It costs water to trade with them, right? And that's where the Water Master comes in. So each village producing at least 12 water will give you a nice little Solari bonus in the later game. So stack a lot of water, you're gonna get some discounts. But villages produce 1 water on empty and potential building slots. That means right at the beginning when you get your first territories, you're gonna be producing some extra water. And that's gonna really compound with being able to create these alliances. Now, you get those alliances cooking, get some nice trade benefits from them, right? But then eventually you're going to unlock these developments. It's actually at the different hegemony levels. So let's talk about these hegemony levels while we're here. The faction bonuses right out of the gate. Neutral spice fields can form alliances with sieges outside of territory. Yeah, that is a unique thing. Typically you can only Atreides could only be allied with this, but wouldn't be able to be allied with like these guys. But Fremen, you can outside of territory, no problem. You use your thumpers for worm riding, which I'll show you here in a bit. And then your villages, they don't have as many building slots, so they're smaller villages. Once you reach 5K hegemony, that's the score right here, surrounding a deep desert grants control over it. Now, this is a kind of a difficult thing to do, to be honest, especially on medium maps, because like, okay, here's a deep desert. I would have to control every single one of these tiles to get control of it. Now, it's awesome if you're able to. I just find in most of my multiplayer games and medium maps can be very, very hard to actually achieve without being super, super aggressive. But you can do it. Surrounding deep desert grants control, and there's other texts that go along with that. And then you start regenerating your thumpers. You can get larger sandworms so you can travel, your subway goes further. So at the beginning, you start spinning these, but they don't regenerate. Once you hit 5K hegemony, they will start regenerate your thumpers for your sandworm transport. And then once you hit 10K hegemony, grants knowledge of enemy alliance with sieges, so you can figure out if enemies are allied with a siege. I mean, maybe you want to take one out. That's something you could do, but you can at least see what's going on. And allied sieges are capable of hosting a main base building. Now, this is really massive. And I'll say maybe one of the biggest things, if you take anything away from this guide, something that you might, kind of wonder what's going on with this civ if you start playing them without reading every detail. So with other factions, you go to your main base, right? And there's a bunch of options for improvements to make, right? These special buildings, right? But with the Fremen, you can see there's only a few. There's a very small, limited amount. And that's because you're supposed to work with these allied sieges to build. So check this out. Over here, I've reached 10K hegemony, and I can click on this. It's an economic siege here. Or, I'm sorry, it's a statecraft. It's blue. So I can actually build these statecraft buildings. You can build one of them in each siege. Now, you can't make two of them or anything like that. But different sieges, like, okay, that one's going to be statecraft as well. Let's see if we can find one that's not statecraft. Here we go. Here's a military one. And these are going to give you all kinds of bonuses. I mean, additional training slots, different command points, right? Different buildings. Now, of course, you have to unlock these as you research, right? Just like you would any other faction. But that's going to be a big part of what makes Fremen's particularly unique. And again, why I think it's just really good just to get these alliances going early on with Stilgar. I think it's just really, really nice. Okay, I think we talked about all their unique hegemony. I would say one of the easiest ways to win with the Fremen is going for a hegemony victory, trying to get 30K score. Grab all those special regions, and you can also tech towards the crafts workshop. And if you get this craft workshop, you can build these in your villages, and then you get hegemony per day. So going for a hegemony victory, very good with Fremen, especially since you're going to be expanding very wide. You can see I'm already expanded out pretty wide myself. Let's show you how the sandworm transport works. And I'm sure we'll get a voting cycle pop up on this soon. So you take your army, and you have to be standing on sand because the sandworm cannot go on rocks. So I'm going to do place a thumper. You can't put it on rocks. And I select my units. And then I'm at 10K hegemony, so I realize this is a bigger sandworm than you'll have at the beginning. And look at this. I can go all the way to here. And the reason being is the Fremen, they don't have access to airfields. So watch this. I selected them. I'm going to say, let's go over to here. And Shai-Hulud's going to come, and he's going to pick them up. And now they're riding on the sandworm all the way to their destination, and then they'll pop out. So great for sneak attacks to enemy bases. And, if I started this transportation here, right, like I could go like all the way to the back of their base. I'll show you actually here in a second once he gets out. But you can immediately attack once they come out. And it's just how the transportation works with Fremen, which is very unique. It allows you to get across the map without needing, forward bases and stuff, which is quite unique in itself. It allows you to get further than other armies typically are able to. Okay, so here we go. Am I out of combat? You can't use them while in combat. Like, look at the reach I have here. I could go all the way to the back of the map. Now, you have to be on the sand, so sometimes you'll see there's like mountain ranges or rocks that will prevent you from actually like traveling to where you're trying to go. So you might need to like move your units over a ridge or across a plateau in order to actually reach the final destination you're shooting for. But that's how the sandworm transportation works, and it's definitely way cooler than the airfields and actually way easier to use. But I've spent them all, so it'll take some time for them to regenerate. Now, what you can do is instead of waiting for them to regenerate, there is a special mission. So let's talk about the missions here. So this one specifically I'm going to talk about, it is called Hidden Is this the one? No, it's not Hidden Thumpers. Is it decoy? Oh, yeah, it's Hidden Thumpers. Yes. So if you use this special mission, it costs 160 intel, 160 Solari. Riding a sandworm to or from this region does not consume a thumper. Military units in the region gain stealth. So, say I was riding, to this region and I used my Hidden Thumpers mission here, and I, just did what we just did right there. It wouldn't actually cost a thumper. So you can technically just keep getting this as long as you've got, a little bit of intel income. Keep in mind, you may end up losing some agents if you're doing an enemy territory, so you gotta be careful. But that is a unique tech that goes along well with the thumper. You've also got some other unique missions. You got hiding tracks. Allied units in the region and its neighbor get stealth. I don't really use this a ton. It does slow down enemy units, so in the region and its neighbors. That can be kind of nice for the mobility side of things. Like, obviously, a lot of micro involved there. My favorite one, maybe one of my favorite missions in the game, other than Nuke, Awake the People. It's very expensive, but starts a rebellion in the village you're using it in. So that is going to be, I get that tech and I do it here, and I say I use that mission here. It's going to immediately make this city rebel. And of course, sometimes people's economy gets pretty fragile. That could send them into an economic spiral. If you're using that in their spice region, maybe they don't have a military to fight that right now. Or sometimes I'll do it like if they're fighting me, near my base, I'll put a rebellion in the far back of their territory so that they, it's just annoying, something to deal with. Particularly using its Harkonnens, they're already dealing with rebellions in a lot of cases. Can be quite nice. So those are the unique missions the Fremen have that are pretty cool. Everything else about this is going to be the same as usual as far as the counterintelligence, your factions, your information, your intel. That's going to be exactly the same. So let's talk about now your unit roster. I'm not going to go super in depth here. It's just going to be kind of a at a glance look. But your core unit roster is going to consist of warriors. It's going to be a melee unit. I started off the game making 2 of these. You got Skirmisher, which is going to be your ranged demolition type unit. You got Infiltrator, which is a melee unit that has high attack, but it is very squishy, has 0 armor, as you can see. So used for sneak attacks, used for trying to, take out some low HP units. Very, very, tactical unit. You've got the mobile turret, and you have to deploy this unit. And see, I have one right now, so I'll show you how it works. Let's see where I got it.
Weapons have no loyalty to their maker.
I don't know where my mobile turret is right now. Oh, it's right here. So you have to actually hit this button, can set up to be a mobile turret, and boom, now it's set up, and now it's able to fire. But then you have to you got to pack and unpack it. Okay, so that's gonna be a mobile turret, very good for artillery uses, and as well as using it for taking out enemy ships, airships. The Fedaykin, that's going to be your elite melee unit. Your Fedaykin's got 5 armor, a lot of armor there. Going to be a nice, mainline unit. And then you've got air. You've got Spire, which is your fighter air unit. It can only fight air to air. So keep that in mind, because that's not the case for all of the other factions. So only air to air for the Spires. That's going to be essentially your anti-air. And then the Altar is going to be your mothership. Has some really, really cool abilities. I'll show you this. Deals damage in a small area, ignores half of the enemy armor, and plus 50% damage against mechanical units. So good against drones and stuff. And then, I can't investigate stuff, but it's really cool. I can't show you everything about it without training it, but there it is. That's your mothership. You can check that out on your own. And last but not least, unit-wise, we've got our 2 heroes. So you've got Chani Kynes and you've got Othame. And with Chani, you get Fremen stealth units that are not currently detected get additional speed. So good for being very mobile. Maybe you're splitting your army up, having a little guerrilla raiding force with some sandworms in the back. And they do not attract a sandworm, so you won't get eaten. Very important. Enemy units at long range give 5 intel on death. So that's a very interesting aspect of them. And then you got Flanker, gains additional speed at short range from a unit. And then you've got a special cooldown ability. Undetected stealth ally units at long range gain 100% power on first attack for 2 days. So it's a ambush skill you can use. So give you a little ambush ability. I like using her a lot. On the other side, you go over here. You've got Confusing Assault. Ally ground units with no units of the same kind at long range deal 50% damage. Some of these are very hard to like, okay, let me get this exact scenario, right? Enemy units at long range deal less damage. So damage units also minus 30% speed. Ignores half of the enemy armor. So that's going to be awesome. So some long range advantages there. And then coordinated strike, allied ground military units at long range. So your drones, your skirmishers. Attack deals additional 20% damage, and they receive 20% less damage. So that's going to be the special ability. So that's going to be your hero for the Fremen. And with that, that really covers a lot of the Fremen. Let's, last but not least, go through the developments tab. Now, you can find the unique ones because they have this little yellow flag next to them. So I will zip through this, and then you can make your decision on which ones you want to go for. But let's look at the unique developments they have. Starting with the economic, you've got Arrakis Secrets. Now, what this will do is it will unlock the spice silo, of course, but it will reveal the position of all the spice fields, which can be quite nice, right? You can gather from neutral spice fields, so maybe you want to go for that right away, find all the neutral spice fields so you can start just long distance gathering. Could be a nice thing to do with Arrakis Secrets. Freedom Fighters. Early game, one of the best techs you can have, right? Because how it works is you get additional Solari production per existing neutral or Fremen village. So that means at the beginning, everyone's neutral, right? You're getting a lot of extra Solari, and then you get plus 500 Solari when liberating a village. So it gives you a bonus for liberating. So nice little tech there. Sand Brotherhood, you get additional Solari per ally siege, which, hello, we're going to be allying up here, right? So that's additional money for you. Nice to have. And then you get additional resource production in the region of an ally siege and its neighbors. So going to be nice there as far as your alliances go economically. And then this tech makes it so that your ceremonial caves, and let me just show you that real quick. So you can only build ceremonial caves in these, energy regions. They don't have energy cells. They have ceremonial caves, right? And they give you additional power. So each one of these, you find where with other civs you would get, fuel cells, you'll get additional power for getting these ceremonial caves. Make sure I didn't miss any other buildings here that might be of interest. Of course, I've built up all of my, here's one. So, yeah, I think that's the most interesting building. Shialu Temple's another major building for additional thumper production, but these are all pretty straightforward if you just read the tooltips on them. Going back into the developments, we've got, ceremonial caves. It just gives you Solari and knowledge in addition to the power is how that's going to work. So that's, an interesting thing about that. Looking at the military ones, you've got Sky Gazing, which is going to give you minus 20% damage from air units, and of course give you your mobile turret. Desert Trackers is going to give you plus 10 water, in addition to the ground units getting 20% speed in neutral territory. You get, for this one, while you're liberating an enemy village, neighboring allied sieges send a supporting raid. Which at first you'll see them coming and be like, oh my god, are they coming to attack me? No, they're helping you out. So, make those alliances. And then Worm Riding is faster, cannot be seen. And then when you exit a worm, it inflicts 10 damage on first attack and gains stealth for a day. So, this kind of works well with your Worm Riding in the late stages of the game. Looking in the bottom left, you've got Fremen Solidarity, which immediately gives you 60 relation with all sieges. So, you see where they all are, you immediately get relation. That could be quite nice. You get this one, Sand Diplomats. Each allied siege gives you +1 influence. And, for the Fremen, you don't get any votes out of the gate, right? You get 0 votes. You have to spend everything as influence. So getting that extra influence tech is going to be nice if you want to be voting at all. And then Siege Network. Each allied siege gives you 5% chance to detect an enemy operation. So +1 agent slot in counterintelligence. And again, just something that compounds well with all these alliances you're going to have with your sieges. And then last but not least, down here in the bottom right, Heir of Arrakis. This one's going to make it so, again, plus 20% authority production per controlled deep desert. So if you manage to get control of a deep desert, you're going to be suddenly getting a whole lot more authority. It's going to help you with your hegemony victory. And then effects of village quirks are applied 2 more times for neighboring villages. So if you're able to pull this off, it's amazing. If you control these territories, You get the Heir of Arrakis there. It's going to take every one of these village and it's going to apply their traits twice. So it's a massive development if you can actually get all that control. So a lot of times, if you can, try to work towards it. It's quite nice. Desert Wisdom. Now, typically, you're trying to bank up a lot of water because you're making all these trades, right? With this, it makes it so you get 0.1 knowledge per level of wind strength in the region. So that's going to be very nice for each of the wind traps you have up, giving you some additional research. And then our final tech that's unique, you get, of course, additional militia slot, but ally units in Fremen territory have stealth. So it really gives you the defensive advantage with some extra stealth. And that's basically going to be it for the Fremen. It's a super fun faction to play. You can go through and see all their cool armory upgrades to get for your military units. But other than that, go out there and have fun with them. And I will maybe in the future post a opening build order guide for the Fremen with how I like to play. But I recommend trying to go for this hegemony victories. Go after those neutral spice fields early on. And if you can try to get control of a deep desert, you're going to be just flowing in the Solari. Thank you so much for watching this guide. Leave me a comment below if you have any questions about the Fremen. I'm happy to answer, try to help you out. And hit me with a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. It helps me out in the content that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.